You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
The following podcast is scheduled for one fall. Coming in at 195 pounds from Studio A, he is the reigning, defending, undisputed host of the Ring of Thunder, Sexy Thor! Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Ring of Thunder. You already know who I am and what I'm about, or maybe you still don't because this show is all over the place. But either which way, let's get started. See, last week I promised you Wrestle Kingdom Night 2, and Wrestle Kingdom Night 2 I shall deliver. Starting off with Toru Yano defeating Bad Luck Fale, Bushi, and Chase Owens to win the King of Pro Wrestling 2021 Provisional Championship. Suzuki Gun defeating 1 or 8, Master Wato and Ryosuke Taguchi to retain the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championship. Shingo Takagi defeating Jeff Cobb to retain the Never Openweight Championship. Sonata defeating Evil, no championships on the line, just beating him. Hiromu Takahashi defeated Taiji Ishimori to win the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship. And finally, Kota Ibushi, you remember on Wrestle Kingdom Night 1, he won the IWGP Heavyweight Championship and the IWGP Intercontinental Championship. And tonight he defeated Switchblade Jay White to retain both titles. And then post-match, Sonata gets on the mic and congratulated and challenged Ibushi. And of course he accepted said challenge. And then once Sonata left, Ibushi was still on the mic and confirmed that he has in fact become God. Well, okay then. You can have it. Then NXT, New Year's Evil was last Wednesday, and it started with Karrion Kross defeating Damian Priest, just one step closer to getting back to the NXT Championship that he never lost. And then NXT Cruiserweight Champion Santos Escobar defeated Gran Metalik to retain said championship. While meanwhile, Jordan Devlin is in NXT UK still having an open challenge for his NXT Cruiserweight Championship because, of course, if you remember last January, Devlin won the Cruiserweight Championship, but of course global pandemic, travel bans and all that prevented him from defending it. So of course there was that tournament where Santos was El Hijo del Fantasma, who was allegedly a good guy, and then he won the title and then revealed himself to be a bad guy and then started Legado del Fantasma, but they're still continuing with Devlin as the Cruiserweight Champion overseas. And of course, I guess eventually there will be a whole unifying match, I guess, when we have fans. I mean, the thought of Devlin versus Escobar actually sounds really awesome. Then Raquel Gonzalez defeated Rhea Ripley in a last woman standing match. But before she could get that victory, Rhea Ripley did end up locking Dakota Kai in a locker and barricading it. So she had a nice little bit of revenge there before Raquel ultimately got the win. And maybe Rhea's going to the main roster now. I don't know. We shall see. And then Kushida and Shotzi Blackheart defeated Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae, because of course Shotzi still has a bone to pick with Candice. And I guess Kushida's got his eyes on the North American Championship now, so sweet. And then finally, Finn Balor defeated Kyle O'Reilly in their rematch from TakeOver 31 to retain the NXT Championship. And of course it ended with O'Reilly kind of hurt and the rest of the Undisputed Era checking on him while Finn's just standing there looking at him like, oh, I'm awesome. So then we also got an announcement for the next NXT TakeOver. It's just NXT TakeOver, and it'll be on February 14th. So that's maybe when we'll see Karrion Kross versus Finn Balor for the NXT Championship. And so yeah, I've got my plans for Valentine's Day locked up. It's not as great as last year's Valentine's Day going to Netherworld, but this is definitely the best possible scenario. And also the Dusty Tag Team Classic starts on NXT and 205 Live this week. And it'll have teams like Adam Cole and Roderick Strong of the Undisputed Era, Everrise, the grizzled young veterans. If you remember, last year's Dusty Classic is when they made their debut and made their mark. And then, of course, they went off TV for a while because 2020. And also there's Breezango and more. And also William Regal announced that there will also be a women's Dusty Tag Team Classic here very soon. So, good stuff. What's also good stuff is this block of commercials that I'm about to play for you.
Check out what's been going on with the Pop Culture Cosmos Show and the PCC Multiverse.
People are just losing their minds trying to consume Marvel products right now, and I don't blame them. This is some of the best entertainment you can get on TV and big screen right now.
If something's going to be successful or not, they look at the mentions, they look at the likes, they look at the retweets and the tweets and the subtweets and the tweets, and they look at all of that to say, okay, this is actually going to garner a lot of attention.
Catch our shows on Worldwide Radio 7 days a week and right here on the ESO Network.
My name is Mark McCray, and I'm the author of The Best Saturdays of Our Lives.
I'm Dan Klink, co-host of the Best Saturdays of Our Lives podcast.
The Best Saturdays of Our Lives features programming trends from the 1966 television season all the way through the last hurrah of the early digital age of the 1990s.
On the show, if it's animated, we talk about it.
Order your signed copy today at tbsool.com.
And listen to the podcast at esonetwork.com and all podcast platforms.
Hello. Have you ever wondered how much Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster sold Superman's rights to DC for? Or which popular football star was the Sam Wilson the Falcons' physical appearance based on? You can find all that and more at the History of Comic Books podcast, a podcast dedicated to the creators, events, history, and the companies that made the great comic book medium. Hosted and created by your friendly neighborhood JT Wheatley. Please give it a listen at iTunes, Spreaker, Stitcher, and all our podcasting platforms. Thank you, and go ahead and enjoy yourself a good comic book.
Look, we gotta talk.
Yeah, Thunder Talk.
We're going all kinds of sideways with that sweet nerd junk.
Woke nerd junk.
It's topical.
Political.
Dare I say radical.
We've got all your latest news and reviews.
Hot music.
And a whole lot of comedy.
But it ain't for kids.
Definitely mature content.
So let's talk.
Let's talk Thunder Talk.
Thunder Talk is a proud member of the ESO Network. So last Saturday, Impact had their Genesis Impact Plus special mini pay-per-view thing ahead of Hard to Kill, which is this Saturday. And it pretty much started out with the Super X Cup, which is a whole tournament for the Super X Cup. I don't know. It doesn't get any more complex than that. It started with round one of Ace Austin defeating Suicide, Blake Christian defeating Casey Navarro in a very awesome match between a couple of up-and-comers. Cousin Jake defeating Daivari, Crazy Steve defeating Trey Lamar. Then we got to the semifinals where Ace Austin defeated Cousin Jake and Blake Christian defeated Crazy Steve. And then we got a little break from the action, and former teammates in the Knockouts Tag Team Tournament of Jordan Grace and Jazz. And Jordan Grace got the win over Jazz, so at least Jazz got to put over some young talent before she ultimately retired. Or if she's going to retire. I know she was on the verge on it. Don't know if she's actually going to do it now. Who knows? Once you just get the taste back for it, you just want to keep going on. And then in the finals, Ace Austin defeated Blake Christian to win the Super X Cup. But yeah, of course, Ace Austin, his star's been on the rise, especially for the last year or so. But Blake Christian, that's somebody to definitely look out for. And then finally, Moose lost the I Quit match with Willie Mack after he gets Willie's head in a chair and about to do a concerto to him and end this man's whole career without even saying it. He doesn't even have to say, I'm going to end this man's whole career. His actions just yell and make you believe down to your very core that he's about to end this man's whole career. But before he could do that, Impact champion Rich Swann ran out and told him to stop and that he'll give him a shot at the Impact World Championship. And then Moose just said, "Thank you, I quit," and then walked out like a stone cold killer. Damn. And then over on Smackdown, something very interesting happened. Of course, I mean, it's Smackdown. What else? But Shinsuke Nakamura ended up owning a gauntlet that was set to determine the number one contender for the Universal Championship at the Royal Rumble. And he did it by pinning Rey Mysterio, who squashed Sami Zayn right before. Actually, no, he didn't pin Rey Mysterio. He made Rey tap to an armbar. That's right. And then he also took out King Corbin, and he had one hell of a match with Daniel Bryan that we all need to see happen again. And interestingly enough, Daniel and Shin shook hands, and Shinsuke didn't hit Bryan in the balls like he did AJ Styles for his WrestleMania 34 heel turn. I swear, if I'd watched WrestleMania 34 on time, then that whole kick butts, not nuts tagline that I use would have definitely been birthed a few months earlier. And all that happened before Roman Reigns and Jey Uso came out with Adam Pearce, WWE official and pretty much general manager Adam Pearce, who Roman had a bit of a very intriguing and scary promo fest on at the very beginning of the episode. And then later on, Paul Heyman got Pearce inserted into the gauntlet match, pulling whatever strings Paul Heyman has. And then Roman and Jey beat the shit out of Shinsuke, and Jey super kicked Pearce, and then Roman had the ref ring the bell with Adam Pearce technically covering Shin for the 1-2-3, so I guess we've got Roman Reigns versus Adam Pearce for the Universal Championship at the Royal Rumble. Now there is word and belief that, there's going to be it's actually a swerve, and it will end up being Roman versus Kevin Owens at the Rumble, but when and how that will take place, and if that'll take place, who knows? We've got 3 more episodes of Smackdown left before the Rumble, so a whole lot can happen. It'll be very interesting. And also, I found something out last week that makes all the sense in the world why Smackdown is definitely the best show, and is that apparently Daniel Bryan is he's either part of the creative team, or he's got like input with the creative team or something, or he's got something with production meetings. But yeah, that makes sense why we've had all this talent actually living up to their potential, like Roman and Jey Uso, and now apparently Shinsuke Nakamura. And that's not even the end of Nakamura's story, because apparently he's got a match this Friday on SmackDown with Jey Uso. So, yeah, something's happening with Shin here. And, of course, Cesaro tweeted out something about "don't mess with my friend," or "you shouldn't mess with my friend," or something, when he retweeted the clip of Roman and Jey beating the shit out of Shinsuke. So, I mean, yeah, eventually somewhere down the line, give me Roman versus Shinsuke, give me Roman versus Cesaro. Oh my goodness. Oh yeah, and of course, Big E retained the Intercontinental Championship against Apollo Crews, but at first it was a draw, and then Big E was just like, "Oh yeah, thanks for the match," and Apollo was just like, "No, give me another one," and he slapped him on the face, and so Big E went at him even more aggressive than before and beat Apollo for the 1-2-3, and then, oof, if you're not watching Talking Smack, you are missing out on some story, because Paul Heyman gave Apollo quite the pep talk that had Apollo fuming with a determined anger at the very end of the episode. And you just really got to start watching these after shows, even when there is weird stuff, like when Charlie Caruso and R-Truth are just like, "Well, what happened to Alexa?" Like 5 minutes after Randy Orton looks like he's going to burn her to death, even though they're like sitting in front of the ring where they were at. Speaking of which, there was no Fiend or Alexa on last week's Raw, but we do have 3 more episodes of Raw before the Rumble, so I gotta assume they show back up either tonight or next week. And Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton are supposed to have an out-of-nowhere non-title match tonight, so sounds like story bait to me. But I swear, for a second it looked like Ric Flair actually turned heel on his own daughter because Charlotte and Asuka were in a tag match with Lacey Evans and Peyton Royce on Raw. And while Lacey was trying to flirt hard with Rick, he was still trying to help his daughter. But when he tried to trip Peyton up, he accidentally got Charlotte, and then she got surprised roll-upped. And she for the 1, 2, 3, and she was not happy with her father and told him to get out of her business and all that. But by Raw Talk, they were all good, so who knows if any of that will serve a purpose later. We shall see, of course. And then Randy Orton was being a dick to the legends, like telling Mark Henry, who was hobbled on like a little scooter, to get out of his building. And of course he cut like the roughest promo on Ric Flair, like almost as bad as the one he cut on him friggin' last summer. And God, what else was he? Were there any other legends he was on? I can't remember. But yeah, so Randy was pretty much being a dick to the legends on Legends Night. And then at the very end, after Drew McIntyre beat Keith Lee for the WWE Championship with all the legends watching, Drew was just, in the middle of celebrating and all that. And then all of a sudden you hear, yep, it was the one and only Goldberg. And he came right up to Drew, wouldn't shake his hand, got a microphone, and then he was telling Drew off for being a dick to legends, even though Drew was like absolutely nothing but respectful, and even did a little skit with Hulk Hogan and Jimmy Hart. But yeah, apparently it was like a script they were using for him to either cut on Randy Orton or Roman Reigns, because there were those tentative plans to have Roman Reigns versus Goldberg like actually happen this time at WrestleMania this year. But those plans for Roman is looking a lot more like Daniel Bryan right now. So yeah, he was just telling Drew off for being a dick to legends, even though he wasn't. And then he pushed Drew down, and then before Drew could respond, the episode ended because that was just poorly timed. But Drew is supposed to respond to Goldberg tonight, and of course he'll accept. We all know this. And I think Drew will retain, but with Goldberg, you never know, because we are coming up on the 1-year anniversary of the travesty of Super Showdown, when Goldberg took the Universal Championship from The Fiend. I don't know, you tell me. And over in AEW land, Snoop Dogg was on AEW Dynamite's New Year's Bash Night 1, walking Cody Rhodes out to the ring for Cody's match with Matt Sydal. And during the match, Cody accidentally punched Serpentico in the crowd, so once the match was over, Serpentico and Luther attacked Cody and Sydal, who dispatched both of them. Then Snoop Dogg climbed to the top rope and hit Serpentico with a splash, or an attempt at a splash, and got him for the unofficial 1, 2, 3. And of course his cousin Sasha Banks got a kick out of it. She regularly does frog splashes in honor of her hero Eddie Guerrero, and she's been sharing pictures of social media on different matches, and Snoop Dogg in mid-splash, like photoshopped in there. Like there was one with Charlotte and Becky in WrestleMania 32, and there's like Snoop Dogg in mid-splash just photoshopped in there. And she was having fun with it. So of course I was having fun with it too. Alright, and then Impact's Hard to Kill pay-per-view is this Saturday. And looking forward to this one. And not just because I'm actually not working on Saturday so I can watch it. Trust me, that is enough reason for me to get hyped for that. And we got quite the teaser for it on Dynamite when, after Kenny Omega defeated Rey Fenix to retain the AEW Championship, the Good Brothers invaded. The 3 men fought back members of the roster who were trying to stop them until the Young Bucks came out trying to calm things down. When Griff Garrison and Brian Pillman Jr. got back up, the Bucks superkicked them and joined in raising their hands with Kenny and the Good Brothers in the Too Sweet sign. So the Bullet Club is here and ready to go with some action on night 2 of New Year's Bash on Wednesday. Nothing any more specific than that. And Hard to Kill pay-per-view on Saturday when Kenny and the Good Brothers take on Rich Swann and the Motor City Machine Guns. Also, there will be Deonna Purrazzo versus Taya Valkyrie for the Knockouts Championship, Sami Callihan versus Eddie Edwards, and Havoc and Nevaeh versus Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz in the finals of the Knockouts Tag Team Championship Tournament, along with whatever else might be announced on Tuesday in the Go Home show. And finally, I'd like to congratulate the Cleveland Browns for winning their first playoff game since 1994 last night. While I'm not a Browns fan, quite a few people in the WWE are Browns fans, like The Miz, Johnny Gargano, Vic Joseph, Dolph Ziggler, and Ryan Popola of the WWE Network talk show The Bump, so I could appreciate the positivity going down my social feed for once. Try telling them that 2021 is equal to or worse than 2020 already. You can miss them with that shit. And that's how the mindset's gotta be. What if what's happened so far in 2021 is just the equivalent of violently coughing up the last bit of junk in your system before you feel better? I didn't expect anything from the first half of 2021 anyway. I mean, except for the fact that it's fucking WrestleMania season, and we're getting Marvel Cinematic Universe stuff again starting this Friday. But you know, what do I know? And that's the 1, 2, 3. Thanks for locking up with me in the Ring of Thunder with that overwhelmingly positive finish. Kick butts, not nuts.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.